How do you handle situations where pets are present in areas where junk removal is taking place? So, Bean, I want you to answer that because you've been quiet over there. How do you handle with pets are present in the area?
Okay, yeah. This is a good question because I don't really do any Google or anything, so I've been kind of quiet, guys. But we are doing a job tomorrow for a rescue. They're a nonprofit organization, and we're going to be removing a couch that was illegally dumped there. So, like, we have a really big heart for animals and stuff, and I love animals. Like, I'm the kind of girl that will kiss your animal in the face because I just trust them. But for work, like sending my guys out, like there's jobs out here. I live in Gary, Indiana. I mean, the fences are all broken. I'll go to a bid and you'll see a big old pit bull just barking at you, and the fence is broken, and you know that they could just jump right through. Some of the jobs I will not accept out here just because of that. I'm not going to risk my guys getting hurt. And I know these people are backyard breeders and their dogs aren't cared for. There's a lot of dog fighting going on out here. So if the job looks too sketchy, I will pass on doing the job because it's just not worth like anybody getting hurt. If the pet's inside the house, I ask, put it in a room or in a cage or something while we do the job, because you still can't trust, a dog coming and seeing you guys, new people touching all their stuff and taking it away and how they're going to feel. So I just keep the dogs away if they're in there. If you see a bunch of dogs running around houses outside and it don't look safe, leave. Like, there's no amount of money worth getting bit or attacked. My brother, he was just recently attacked by like two cane corsos, so it's pretty scary out here with big vicious dogs and stuff. So we're just passing on those jobs.
Yeah.
Holding company says, how do I manage my holding business while also having a full-time job? Does anybody have a full-time job as they're doing the holding business?
Or dispatching?
I had a full-time job. I was a public transit operator. I was the chief shop steward of our local union. I walked away from it because my passion, my phone was blowing, because I started this side hustle and my phone kept on blowing up. And guess what? Your body, your mind, your soul is going to tell you when it's time. And it's hard because when you start making $1,000 in less than an hour, and then you go report for duty for 8 hours, and you're just like, come on, man. You know what I mean? I'm doing overtime and I'm still not making it.
I think you got to wait till it's consistent, though. Some people want to jump into, full time too soon. And I think you have to know, like you were saying, you got to balance it and you got to know when you have enough.
Yeah, you got to balance. Definitely have to balance.
I walked away from it, and it was the best thing ever.
Oh,
I took control of my life. I took control of my life and my time, because we're only here a limited time.
And your time is your most valuable thing you have, is your time.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing. I kind of just jumped in. I didn't have a full-time job. Kind of just made this my full-time job and treated it as a full-time job. The same way I would go and apply for another job and go out there and start working and building, a paycheck over the week and building those hours. I'll do the same thing. You treat it as a job, and you start learning, and managing your money and your jobs and how you pay yourself. And you start comparing,
But that's it right there, though, is you see that, though, honey. You see that. Most people are sitting there waiting for their phone to ring. You have to make this your full-time job. It's not going to work for you.
A lot of people think that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They think that they're just going to put, a sign on their truck and sit back and stand by, and they're just going to come rolling in. Mm-hmm. And that's sorry to say, but that doesn't happen, Yep.
One thing I would throw in there is, just from being a multiple business owner, what I've always did in every industry that I've got in is I always learn everything about it firsthand.
Every hat.
Yes. But what I'm doing the whole time is setting that business up to run when I'm not there. And that's from day one, I'm learning how to do that. So I respect a lot of people want to stay on the truck and all that, but to do what I'm have right now and built my empire, and kind of like I think that's what they're saying, like having a full-time job and also running this business. The answer is to have your systems set up properly. You
Matt,
know,
what was the speaker that you had, Matt, at the Mindset Matters? And what was his name? The Squirrely or whatever his name is?
Mike Sorelli.
Yes, really. Sorry for sliding on that. But he said, what did he say? He said the way basically way make it. But he had us raise our hands in the room of people. How many people's business could run for a year without them being there? And I raised my hand. How many people could their business run for 2 years without you being there? I was out for 2 years with a brain injury, and my business ran maybe not the way I wanted it to, but like I think I was one of the only ones that could raise their hand and say that. And you would be the same way. You
how did you manage to run it like when you were out?
My ex did it poorly, but I had the business set up, the context set up and everything. So it's still running. I mean, we broke up, I left it, and it's still running. It's paying my bills here while I get started, but that made me feel like I did something right because I'd never heard that before. Matt, he is such an intelligent man though. Yeah. And I'd never heard that before. But the fact that I looked around and nobody else was raising their hand, I think maybe somebody else was in the room, but you saw that, Matt, and that says something. And you got it right, Paul. You want that business, even if you're on the truck, you want it to be able, if something happens, like what happened to me, you have a brain injury, you want that business to keep running. And, like I said, not everything was run or is being ran the way I want it to be. Right. But still, it's bringing in money. He's still making a lot of money. It's paying my bills here while I get started here. But that's something to be proud of, Paul, that you have that mentality that you can keep a business going without you.
But what I'm saying though is the system set up so that that you're not on the truck no more, because you're not going to be able to run three other businesses. Like the way I have my other business, most people don't know that they're running every day. You know what I mean? I have had a team, I do marijuana cultivation that runs itself. I check in maybe once a month. I just roll up on the property. I don't let anybody know I'm coming, kind of just check up on everything. My antique and collectible business, that's on the other side of the country in New York. I don't touch the day-to-day and all. I just check in, maybe every 2 weeks and just look at the books, make sure everything's running smooth and all. But
you got to be good at training those people, right? Kind of like Kevin Hess was saying, to get your manager, whatever, but you've got to be good at training those people, Paul, to be able to have that business run.
Yes, you have to be a good judge of character, and you got to give people their leeway and all, but also always check up on them. Make sure they're always doing the right thing. And a lot of times if you kind of you get too much trust in person and you kind of just give too much room, that's when the problems, occur. And I've definitely come across that. But when you do find somebody very good and that could, run the day-to-day for you, you pay them like no other. You treat them so good. Because they're the ones that make everything possible. And this makes it possible that I could go and start another business and get another income coming in. And then after this, just so you guys understand, I'm planning on opening these up in a couple other states. As I get those up and running, I figure out the formula. My next venture is I'm getting into my laundromats, which I've been going about for the last year and been in that community and all that. And that's my next move, will be opening up laundromats all over Florida, which I'm already connected in the industry. I was on everybody's podcast. I was going really, really hard for 6 months every day looking for places and all. And it wasn't working out because of the area I was looking in South Florida. The deals weren't there. And then I came across junk removal and I was like, I'm going to jump right in this.
And you've been in junk removal for how long, Paul?
2 months my business has been running.
See, that's just crazy. You're doing spectacular. Yeah.
Like I said, when the way my formula in any industry I get in is I learn from the best. I come a sponge, and normally it takes me about 2 to 3 years to do what other people take 5 years. And that's been in almost every industry I get in, man. So, I'm figuring out the formula and it works, and that's why I would just want to keep everybody positive. And, if like coaching and, some of these things that some of the people offers in junk removal aren't for you, you don't have to go negative against. You don't got to bad mouth it. Just that's not for you, and that's not how you learn. But others do, and I'm telling you, I'm one of those people. And believe me, I am the furthest thing from a sucker when it comes to my money. I love money. You know what I mean? So I hold on to it tight. But if I see, I'm going to gain value in something, and it's an investment in myself, that makes sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah.